Hello and thank you for joining me today. This is Shanna with Caffeinated Craftiness, and I am here today to bring you a new project featuring Crackerbox and Suzy Stamps products amongst some other supplies from my stash. Stay tuned, sit back and enjoy. Today's card is a Colorblock card design featuring one color ink, a little bit of ink splattering, and then just some silhouette stamping using black ink. I am using the Trinity Stamps A2 Rectangle Foundations stencil set in order to mask and create my color block. It's super simple. There is etched lines that allow you to line up your cardstock. My cardstock today is Bristol Smooth cardstock. It is my cardstock of choice when I am ink blending. It goes on really smooth. So I'm going to use some purple tape just to adhere my paper to my stencil so it doesn't slide around at all. It doesn't take much. I just tape the back to the back side of the stencil so it is sturdy when I go to blend. Flip it back over and I'm ready to ink blend. I knew I wanted to do an ombre to my color block, so I chose my Tattered Rose Distress ink, and I'm using the foam ink blending tool. I'll just start off the paper so I don't end up any harsh lines, and then just work the color up in little circular motions until I have the depth of color I want in the area. I'm going heavy at the bottom, and it will get lighter as we go to the top. I'll go ahead and speed this up a little bit so we can get back to the rest of the card. After the ink blending is done and I got the colors I wanted on my card, I'm grabbing my ink on 3 liquid pixie dust and I'm going to do a little bit of splattering. I love the light shimmer this gives. It's pretty much just like pixie dust on my card. I like to put it on something plastic or easily wipeable. In this case, I just grabbed the cellophane packaging to my stencil set, put 1 or 2 drops down on it, and I'm going to thin it out just a little bit with some water. This lets it splatter a little easier on the paper for me, and I don't have to use as much of the pixie dust. After I pick some of the liquid pixie dust up on my brush, I'm just going to tap my brush over my paper. I made sure to leave my stencil on, so I'm still masking that white frame around my color block. My splatters in this case will only go where the stencil allows it. Now the magical reveal gets to happen. I love taking my stencils off. Revealing that white border just seems to be so satisfying. I'm going to go ahead and take the purple tape off my card. I don't need it anymore. And then we are actually going to go ahead and heat set this a little bit so all of that pixie dust is nice and dry before I do my stamping over it. Next, it's time to stamp our images. I'm going to grab my stamping platform and position my card panel in it so it's not going to move around, just tucking it up into that corner and putting the magnets. And I'll actually put an extra piece of tape on it because I really don't want it to move so I can do repetitive stamping so I can get a nice dark crisp image. I am using the Wedding Dress stamp from Crackerbox and Suzy Stamps, and it is a red rubber cling foam stamp, so just flipping over the lid to my platform really quick before I pick it up. Ink on 3 Blackout ink is my ink of choice for this. I love how dark and crisp my images are when I use it, but I am going to stamp multiple times because I want a really dark silhouette done for this dress. I believe I'm stamping 3, maybe 4 times. After I get my image as dark as I want it, I will go ahead and remove it from the platform, and I'm going to load in a piece of just black cardstock so I can stamp my sentiment at the same time I have my platform out. This is also from Crackerbox and Suzy Stamps. It is a vertical congratulations stamp. I like it. It puts a different twist on a sentiment for a card with the vertical going down the length of my card. Ink on 3 Juicy Embossing ink is the ink I like to emboss with. I'm going to go ahead and prep my cardstock really well with an anti-static tool. I like the EK Success one. It has the little brush tip, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. On the black, it's kind of neat. You can see exactly where I've stamped. I'm going to just grab a piece of scratch paper and sprinkle my embossing powder over it. This is Sterling from Brutus Monroe, and it'll give us a nice clean silver finish to my sentiment for the card. I'll clean up my work area a little bit, get the embossing powder put away before I spill it, because I will spill it if I leave it out. And then I'm just going to go ahead and heat this up so I can melt the embossing powder. After that's all heat set and finished, I'm going to trim it down so I just have a narrow strip that will go the length of my card. So it'll measure roughly 5.5 inches long, and I believe this ends up being about a 1/2 inch wide once it's all trimmed down. To get the residual anti-static tool off, I'm just taking a microfiber cloth and kind of buffing off the dust. Now it's time to put together our front card panel, and that just means I'm going to adhere my sentiment to the front of the panel. I'm offsetting it a little bit to the side so we can still see the edge of the color block, so you still have a full color block on the card, but I'm going to mount this with some foam tape. The foam tape will just give a little pop of dimension to the front of the card and separate it from the dress behind it. All that's left to do now for the card panel is to mount it to a card base. I like to use liquid adhesive for this. Today I'm using Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. The liquid adhesive just gives me a little bit more time to position it to where I have it straight on the card. It gives me the wiggle room that tape runner doesn't. I'm going to add a couple sequins for some sparkles. This is the glass slipper sequin mix from Trinity Stamps. And that fun little embellishment tray is from a friend of mine who has started making them. Twiddler's Nook, Amanda over at Twiddler's Nook, is selling those in her Etsy shop. I'll be sure to link to them below. She has a couple different designs, and they are perfect for figuring out what embellishments you're going to use. I set down some random drops of the liquid adhesive, and now I'm just using my quick stick to pick up my sequins and set them on the glue. Whereas my sequin design is random, my number choice is not. I tend to work in odd numbers when I adhere my embellishments. It is a little more appealing to the eye and a little easier to scatter for me. That finishes the card front. I don't normally decorate the inside of my cards. I tend to make more of a note card style and have the insides just be blank, or at least until I use them. Today is going to be different though. I decided I wanted to add this sentiment, All Things Grow with Love. It is from Crackerbox and Suzy Stamps again. And then there was this trio of flourishes that really matched the wedding dress on the front. It is a set of 3 flourishes that come together as a set, and I decided I would kind of arch those as a frame around it. I didn't get too creative with my ink choice. I stuck to the same distress ink I used for the color block on the front, the Tattered Rose, and I am just going to ink everything in that color. It takes me a couple times to get it a little darker, but the effect of matching the front was really pleasing for me. To balance my design, I'm going to take that one flourish and flip it over to the side so I have a full arch going across the top of my sentiment to just kind of complete the framing of it. With the stamping complete, that's going to wrap up today's project. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed my project. All the links will be listed in the video description below. I hope you have a great day, stay crafty, and stay safe.